Let's flow. Let's connect and flow. Welcome to The Shift. The space is created with the intention to care and lived experiences. What I share here with you is meant to inspire thought and deepen your awareness and encourage your growth. At the same time, you are invited to listen with discernment, honor your own journey, and seek additional support when needed. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't. All right. So here we are experiencing the Soulutions Workshop. Yeah, I said that. Soulutions Workshop. So we're going to be talking about the law of acceptance in business and employment. Yeah, that's right. The laws work in your everyday lives. Whether you're aware of them or not, whether you're asleep to them or just awakening from your slumber, the laws of the universe continuously work, whether we acknowledge them or not. So welcome to this podcast series. This is episode 2, and we're going to be talking about the law of acceptance. Once again, I say it again for those that just entered the room. In our business and employment life, have you ever found yourself feeling like nothing is working even when you just got up? Have you found yourself sitting in silence before work, feeling tired already? The day hasn't even started, right? I know what that feels like. 40 years of working in an industry that, like I said in part 1, that I really didn't think I chose, right? And from the outside, everything looks stable to you. From the outside, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get dressed, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to fix my coffee, put it in the thermos, I'm going to drive to work. And along driving to work, I might encounter things that I have no control over. And by the time you get to work, you feel drained, right? But the thing is, we have a role. We do. Our soul is playing a role in this body. The role of utilizing responsibilities or having the experience of utilizing or creating responsible direction in our life, whether it's towards work or play, right? Maybe even the respect of our colleagues is a role that we play. What do we give to gain their respect? While internally, that's from the outside, but internally, something feels unsettled. I'm not saying that you're in a whole awakening process, the whole kit and caboodle, but maybe you're beginning to wake up in that area of your life. I did that. I found out that there were certain areas in my life that I was becoming aware of. Okay. So internally, something felt unsettled to me. There was tension. There was tension in my life that I just couldn't name. Irritations that I would have that I didn't know where they were coming from, but I knew that they were happening in my body because my body was giving me those attributes of what tension was in my body. Headaches. I had some headaches that maybe pass out at work. Found out later that the the title was migraines, right? There's a sense of being stretched or overlooked or simply misplaced. And you couldn't tell whether it was because of you or because of someone else or a combination. It's easy in those moments to assume that the solution needs to be drastic. I only say that because I felt that way. I felt like just quitting, just without even having another job to go to, just quitting. And then listening to other people say, oh, you can't do that. You have to have other preparations in place, which meant I had to be in a situation or circumstance within my employment or within the company or the corporation or the department that I was working in. And that gave me more anxiety. Okay. So, and I say it's easy because our ego or egoic unconsciousness will always have us fight, flight, or resist. Right? For at least for me. And remember, I'm giving you information based on my lived experience. You take what resonates and you leave what doesn't. Okay? Some of us choose to quit. And all of a sudden, well, I got to make money. So that means I got to start a business. And you just start a business, not even knowing what's required of starting a business. Right? Okay. So the feelings could be signals of escape, yes, or it could be signals of you accepting a situation and then going, what now? You accept how you feel about something. I really don't like the way this makes me feel. And it opens you up to ask an embodying question. For me, it was always what next or what now or what more, right? What if the signal was not meant for escape or fleeing? What if it was made or arose so that you could have understanding? So today's conversation is about the law of acceptance and why you feel misaligned at work or in the mom and pop shop that you own, or in as a CEO, or owning your own corporation, or any of those, being or just being an employee, right? It's not about to persuade you. Excuse me, I'm healing from cold symptoms. It's not about trying to persuade you not to flee. It's not about persuading you or it's not about pushing you to leave. It's about helping you understand or helping you to examine what your experience is revealing, why the situation or the circumstance or the catalyst is revealing this to you, and why it's revealing it to you right now in your now moment. Acceptance is not about approval. I found out it was about awareness. That made a difference for me, because acceptance about approval put it on the outside for other people to approve me, of me, and how I was doing things, or how and therefore belittle me or berate me. That's how I felt. Okay. The willingness to take a pause before you react, to notice the tension within my body instead of immediately resisting it. I get to say, why do I feel this way? I get to ask, what is this moment trying to show me or bring out in me? Does this feel energizing to me? Does it feel depleting to me? Do I feel aligned with what it's trying to show me? Or do I feel like it's overriding how I shouldn't feel? Right? Or is it overriding what I think I should, how I think I should be feeling? I think I should be feeling happy when I walk out the door to go to work. I've always enjoyed it before. Why don't I feel that way now? Right? Misalignment doesn't always mean what I found. I'll put it this way. Misalignment didn't always mean that I was in the wrong place. I found out that it meant that I was unclear about my boundaries. And I don't mean boundaries that keep you a prisoner. Because sometimes you can set up boundaries that keep you stuck in a situation and a circumstance without advancing. It's not somebody else setting up the boundaries for you. You're setting up the boundaries to keep situations and circumstances and people out at work, thinking that you'll be more comfortable, but still having to work with them. Right? So I'm just taking a pause a moment. Sometimes I felt unclear about my boundaries. I'm going to repeat that again. But I didn't know it meant that I was growing then. I didn't know it meant that I was unwiring myself from things that were overriding me. I didn't know I had control over that. Right? No, like I said, I had been in the accounts receivable and collection and credit department in at least 3 major companies and maybe a few smaller mom and pop companies, just a few, that totaled about 40 years. Now, I can't tell you all 40 were, no, because as I started to learn and grow, then I started to see the growth. Actually, I started to see the growth that some managers and supervisors saw within me, but I couldn't see within myself. Right? So sometimes maybe when you're being opened up on a path that's uncomfortable, especially as an employee or as a CEO or as a mom and pop owner, business owner, or just in everyday life, maybe it's opening you up to a growth possibility. You get to have a embodied question that says, okay, what is this trying to teach me? Right? Before making a decision about your future, acceptance invites you, and that's what it's all about, this law of acceptance. It invites you to understand your present moment. How can you understand your future if you don't sit in your present moment or your now moment, whatever term you want to call it, so that you can have a question about it, especially acknowledging what your body is trying to to tell you how you feel about certain situations, certain circumstances, certain conversations, so that you can make a valid conclusion about where to move to next, because that's where your future is, right? Everybody's always looking to the future in panic. Well, that's because you're not sitting in your present asking embodying questions. You're not getting curious about yourself. Or maybe you are, and the answer is there, but your ego is blocking you from it because your ego says, your egoic self, your unconscious self says, no, you can't step outside of that box. You can't step outside of the information that we've already provided for you, because it's giving you its version of what consciousness is. That blew my mind. That really, really blew my mind, right? Clarity doesn't come from reaction. We already know that. At least most of us know that. You have to take a moment, just a moment. You have to give your unconscious a break and say, give me a moment. Let me embody this a minute. Let me kind of play with it. Let me toy with it. Let me ask an embodying question. Ooh, right? For me, I had a lot of those. It's called life. Did they all work out? No. Did my ego get the better of me? Sometimes. Did my ego ever leave? No, it's still there. That will always be part of me. I think when we think of an ego death, our ego dies to what it used to know, so that it empties out. That's the death. It empties out what it used to know to make room for more knowledge. Right? So basically, clarity doesn't come from reaction. Take it or leave it. It comes from observation. You get to observe you. You get to take a closer look at you. So I'm going to start with who I am, who I found out that I am, past, now moment, and whatever the now future is. Most people know I'm into numerology, and hold on. Let me welcome in Olivia. Thank you. I hope you can stop in a little bit longer for class before you go to class, but I understand you can always catch me in the replay. Thank you so much. So when I was learning about numerology, of course, we all start by using ourselves to put that information in. What I found that, which I'm going to share with you, is I'm a life path 4. Life path 4s are structured. They love foundations. They love systems, and they love discipline. And probably long-term vision, right? But when I first learned about that, I thought I was going to have, excuse me. Like I said, forgive me. I'm healing. My body is going through healing and uh, uh, getting over some mucus and stuff. So hold space for me. Anyway, so I really thought a life path 4 was like boring, right? I thought, because I love inspiration and motivation and the law of one and everything, I thought I was going to be some creative whatnot. But I also found out that because my name was changed on my birth certificate by the hospital administration, because they thought my mother made a mistake. They thought she didn't know how to spell my name, and she had it spelled Sondra, and they changed the O to an A. Well, I found out that nothing happens by accident and that my name was supposed to be both, right? So let's go on. Like I said, I felt like it was boring. I felt small. I felt like someone just handed me a spiritual job description. Really, right? That the number says that I'm a worker. I'm a little worker bee. I'm the steady one. I'm the one that you can rely on. I'm the predictable one. Before I even knew about numerology, I felt like I was already in a box. I felt boxed in, right? I thought that I was just an employee. I thought I was just a little worker bee. I knew people could rely on me. Why? Why did I know that? Because the reason why I took that job was because I had to support my family, right? Even in that, I was the reliable one. I just kept things running, right? So when I finally, like I said, read about the life path 4, it described that. And I remembered saying, is this all I am? Consistency, stability, routine. Where's the freedom in that? Where's the adventure? Where's the spark? That's what I said. Kind of felt like a cubicle. I was working in one. But then I realized that acceptance is not pretending I love my wiring immediately. Acceptance was sitting in it, or sitting within myself long enough so that I could go from understanding it to understanding it. Right? When I finally understood it, or when I eventually understood or realized what it was, or understood that structure isn't a cage, or that foundation isn't limited, I started to feel vibrational power as not just as a single mom, but as an employee. I started to see my worth. I started to realize that I had just as much power as the world celebrates spontaneous people and their power, the ones that jump off cliffs, the ones that are the risk takers. But for those people who jump off the cliffs and are the risk takers, there had to be people that built it for them to do, to make it last, to make it sturdy. Someone to help them take their vision and turn it into a system that they could use. That's creative. Someone that could help the boss put together the spreadsheet, make it make sense, explain it to them so that when they went in to sit in the CEO meeting with their biggest vendors, it all made sense. That was me. Did everyone there know that? Probably not. But there were some people who knew it before I knew it, that was me. I started to realize that I'm not chaotic, but that I'm sustainable growth. Growth means it keeps going, keeps going. I don't build slow. I'm building strong and sturdy. That I'm not boring. That I have growth and potential to be a leader, and it doesn't mean that it has to show up in CEO form. Acceptance is about acknowledging who we are, right? Okay. So in the numerology, I also noticed that they have what is called a soul urge number. Because like I said, your soul doesn't stop playing just because you go to work. Right? Hydrate. Your soul doesn't stop playing. It doesn't stop being. It's part of you. Right? So my soul urge number was harmonizer, bridge builder, peacemaker. Long before I had that language, I was already living that. As a middle child, I would learn, or I grew to learn and know the room. I would be able to read the room. That's the best language for that. I was a middle child. I had two siblings older than me, and I had two siblings younger than me. And I had to read the room, and I had to soften tensions, or at least that's what I felt. They might have a whole totally different perception of when we were growing up back then. But my perception was, as the middle child, I believed I was the one that softened tensions and bringing people back to center. And I never saw it as a strength. I just saw it as, trying to keep the peace. I didn't like the noise. I never saw it as a strength. And as I grew to understand it, or what I thought I understood a little bit better in my 20s or my middle 20s, late 20s, that I thought I was people pleasing. I thought it meant I didn't have a strong enough voice. I had a voice to keep somebody else's peace, but when I spoke up for myself, it got overwritten with people's voices who were louder, or who thought they knew better than I. After a while, the thoughts were going on. I was having, common sense, thoughts and stuff, but I just didn't share them. Even while I was kind of working, I just did the worker bee. And when it didn't work out right, I didn't even say, well, I wanted to say, well, you're my boss. You told me to do that. So I just did it, because that's what employees do. Your boss tells you, okay, do this program, or or write this report, or move this from one account to another, and you just do it, even if it doesn't seem right to you. Right? So I just said, okay, let's make them happy. They think they know. Let them think. Keep letting them think they know. What I learned early on in this is that it's not for me to see others' faults. The situation is opening up for me to see mine. It took me a while to understand that. Right? Acceptance teaches you that even though the mistakes are marked in red, it's not about you being at fault. It's about you having feedback about what might need fixing or correcting or adjusting. Right? Feedback often focuses on what needs to be fixed. So it's going to show up as a catalyst that looks like it's chaotic or maladjusted, a problem that needs solving. I began to monitor myself. It's okay to monitor yourself in certain situations and circumstances, because if you go within, if you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to see, ooh, I could do that a different way. I'm not going to say I got really, really good in the beginning at correcting what was off, but at least I noticed it. I could see it. By the time I got deeper into what I call corporate life, but I was in the accounting department, but I was always called to sit in on the meetings. My mindset had started to change and shift a little. I still had those vibrational work hard, correct faster, don't make mistakes, don't disrupt. I was still in that mode. I couldn't see all of my weaknesses very clearly, but they were becoming visible to me. My faults, or let's put it this way, my strengths were less oriented. No, my strengths were less ordinary. They were still small in my eyes, sometimes invisible. But now I learned through through my life, I began to embrace the structure. It's not boring. Sit down and watch it. See the foundation. Look at the support system. Not everybody's out to get you. Look at the systems. How are they working for me? What's my discipline like? Stop looking at everybody else and pointing fingers, Sandy. What's my long-term vision? How long do I really want to be doing this for? Is this, excuse me, what I want in my consistency? Is this how I want my stableness to look or feel? Do I like this routine? The moment you start asking those questions, things start opening up for you, whether you're a CEO or whether you're an employee. What I noticed, the reason why I started this workshop is because what I noticed is I see a lot of individuals telling people that they don't need to be employees. Go out and get your own business. Be your, clock in and out in your own, time. And it confuses, I noticed it was confusing a lot of people because they would go out and say, oh, I've been a musician, or example, I've worked in this orchestra for this long, and I love music, and I love bringing music to children, and I want to continue being a writer. I'm really good about writing piano books for people, for piano teachers. So I think I'm going to publish my own book, and I'm going to open a little store, and I'm going to sell to teachers. But here's the thing. Is that what do you know how to run a shop? Do you know about business? Do you know about marketing? Do you know about making, doing all the proper things that you need to do so that you make ends meet, or that you stay out of the red? Do you know how to do your general ledger reports? These are things that you really do need to know. Do you know what receipts to keep and what receipts that you don't need, so that when you go to do your tax returns on your company, so that you can receive your proper refund for your company? Did you know that you have to report yourself as an employee, and that you have to pay yourself before you can decide if you're in the red or the black? Right? I'm just saying. Acceptance, the law of acceptance doesn't mean that you have to settle. Acceptance is you finding out where you're aligned at. And then your alignment begins to expand. You're not caught up in a box. Acceptance gives you permission to see your abilities. When I truly began to accept who I was, and that was towards maybe my 40s, and I had been working continuously for a company for about 13 years before that company got bought. There were a lot of transitions that I went through. I began to truly accept myself. It didn't change how I saw myself spiritually, but it changed how I worked. I allowed my spirituality or my soul to come play. Doesn't mean I stopped working. Doesn't mean I made people believe, they had to do what I do spiritually. No, I just worked at being uh, uh, part of for me, triune, soul, body, and mind. And that I am, when I got up in the morning to go to work, I was going to the arena called work. That playground called work was so that my soul could learn. If you like being an employee and you like working for the company that you work for, it is crucial that you find out about you and you being an employee for that company and why you like it so much. Grow and expand. If you like working for a company that serves the community and serves others and makes the product that you're proud of, then go ahead and be that employee. What do you need to do next to support the company that employs you? Not about the people that tell you you shouldn't be an employee, don't work for the man. Find out if the company that you work for has the definition of the man of what people are trying to tell you to escape from. That's all that I'm saying. That's part of discernment, right? All I'm saying is I just changed how I worked. There was a time when I questioned whether I was hired for entrepreneurship or not hired, wired for entrepreneurship, or whether I was just wired for structure. Because in today's culture, I know it can feel like you're not launching something big or scaling fast or building a startup. You're behind if you don't do those things. I began to feel that pressure. Not because people weren't giving me a great compliments. You really know your stuff. And man, by the time you finished talking to me, I should have been taking notes, Sandy, while you were telling me this stuff. You can have your own business and have your own clients, and I ran with it. I had a friend who was very savvy, and she helped me get my business license. She helped me get my domain name. She helped me do my website, and everything. And then by the time it was time for me to ask another question, she was off. She was gone to her next whatever. And I knew nothing about marketing. I knew everything about the product. The product was me, but I knew nothing about how to market me to the outside community, or finding outside um, uh, customers. We'll put it that way, instead of looking for a big word, right? But the more I began to understand myself, I understood and began to understand that my structure and need for systems and respect for cash flow and accountability and follow through, the more I understood that if I built a business, I built it strategically. I had to. And that part that I had no experience in limited me. So I had to put it on a back burner. Right? Either way, I began to understand that I am aligned the more that I understand myself. Whether I'm mastering a system for it as an employee for a company at that time before it sold, that was in alignment with me. There are some people that are meant to innovate wildly as employees and innovate wildly as a small business owner or a CEO of a major company or the owner of a corporation. Some are meant to stabilize and strengthen. Both are needed. The ego says, if I'm not an entrepreneur, I have failed. Acceptance says, if I am aligned, I win. No matter whether you're the employee or whether you're the manager or whether you're the CEO or whether you're the corporate executive of the corporation. I use myself as an example. When I worked in accounts receivable and collections, I understood the cash flow. I understood the responsibility. I understood what it takes to build something that sustains or that's sustainable. From that area, I understood that. But what I finally understood is that mindset didn't limit me. Like my ego was telling me, you're just limited. This is where you're always going to stay. You're always going to be this employee. That's why that went on the back burner, blah, blah, blah. If you're a single parent building stability for your family, structure matters. If you're starting up a startup company, trying to create predictable revenue, structure matters. I had to say that the right way. If you're leading a team of a Fortune 500 company, structure matters. Acceptance matters. The law of acceptance matters. If you're getting ready to walk into a boardroom and you're the one that's going to hold that floor for 45 minutes to an hour, acceptance within yourself matters. Can you do it? I can do this. If you are building something at your kitchen table as a parent or parents that want to sit down and have a family dinner and wonderful conversation, the structure of your conversation matters. It doesn't mean that it's put in a box, but it matters how you keep them engaged. Let's talk about predictability, right? It's not a personal trait. It's just experience. At least that's what I think, right? When my work environment was clear, structured, and I could communicate, whether it was in that moment or in the advanced moment, my body felt steady. I could do this. I felt capable. I felt prepared. I felt grounded. But when the environment was chaotic, or I perceived it to be chaotic, last minute changes, I dealt with a few of those. Undefined priorities, people changing the priorities at the last minute, right? Consistent, a person coming in, that one department that comes in with a persistent crisis problem, or we'll call it constant crisis mode. You've probably worked with a few of those. My body would be so tense, and I would feel exhausted before I even began that expectation of that type of conference meeting. For a good portion of that my work experience, I thought it was my fault I felt like that. I thought I was judging myself. I thought maybe I wasn't flexible enough to bend to everybody's whims. Maybe I wasn't bold enough to put them all in their place. Maybe I didn't have what I needed for leadership, and maybe my boss was leading me astray. But with encouragement, I began to go within and ask, embodying question: what about this environment? What about this environment? Is it, am I wired for it? Am I wired for this environment? Can I thrive in it? Or I began to ask, how can I change it? Let me see what questions I can ask to encourage a conversation when all these types of people get together and want to embark on their chaos. But I had to accept that in myself. I had to say, can I at least ask these questions? Be bold enough to ask these questions? The question alone can change everything within me. Because without acceptance, the structure part of us compares ourselves to timelines. It harmonizes us to over pleasing or losing control. We dive into wanting to overperform Your ego builds to validate, just that ego consciousness. But acceptance, the law of acceptance within you, builds you builds you the ability to allow yourself to be solid. Before I built Soul Awakening with Sandra publicly, I had to build the structure of her privately. Before I even spoke it with confidence, I had to study myself. Before I could align with it on the outward, I had to align with it on the inward. I had to know that I knew that I knew that I wanted to help people embody who they are with the universal laws. I wanted to inspire. I wanted to motivate. I wanted to help people engage with this power that, or with this energy that is willing to create for you. But I had to know that I knew that it was within me to be able to do that. I finally understood that I couldn't skip foundation, and I couldn't expect expansion to happen without me. So whether you're an employee, or whether you're a entrepreneur, or whether you're a parent or a partner or a leader, or the principle is the same. Alignment is acceleration, acceptance before expansion. Accept, go within, accept who you are, accept yourself, accept the faults that you believe about yourself, and then transform them. Acceptance means honoring your opposite. There's a layer that most people skip. Not everyone feels safe in predictability. For some people, predictability is suffocating. For some people, every day, that predictability looks the same. Every task is routine. Every week follows the same pattern. For some people, it is restlessness. It is being disengaged. It is understimulated. For some people, it's like something inside is shrinking. But guess what? That's information. Just like structures stabilize, they stabilize your nervous system with a variety of energizing information. It allows you to change. It allows you room for movement. It allows you room to reignite yourself or re-innovate yourself. Acceptance doesn't say, I shouldn't want chaos because it looks bold. Acceptance says, I observe what energizes me, and I observe what drains me. No shame, no ego, no comparison, just awareness. You you're aware of the higher polarity and you're aware of the lower polarities and its effect on you. In the workforce, you have to acknowledge one. You have to acknowledge what doesn't work, and your body tells you that. This is the only way that it can be transformed or changed. Maybe it is time for you to graduate from being an employee of a big amalgamated corporation and go out on your own. But at least you've done the due diligence from within to without. It gives you opportunity to ask embodying questions about where you're going to go from there. If you ignore what drains you, you're slowly disconnecting from self. When you honor what energizes you, you move to clarity. So if you acknowledge what's draining you, then you ask a question, well, how can I get to re-energizing myself from here, from this particular thing that's draining me? You've acknowledged it. You've made yourself aware of it and it aware of itself. Now that moves that vibrational energy to actually open up so you can replace it, change it, alchemize it. The perfect thing is you don't know what to alchemize. If you don't know what is the problem, then you can never alchemize anything. You have to acknowledge it, even if it's within you. The law of acceptance is not about forcing you into someone else's blueprint. It's about you acknowledging the blueprint from within you and deciding what comes out and where it goes. It's about you recognizing your own processes and building from there. If you are wired in, if you're wired to thrive in predictability, like I was, or I still am, if you're wired to thrive in that predictability, but you're always finding yourself in constant chaos, your body is interpreting that chaotic stress. Ask your body a question. What can I do for you? Not because you're not capable, because you're just misaligned. So you get to ask your body, well, how can we move from this? Show me. Let me see why I'm still diving into chaos when I know that I'm okay with predictability and I know I'm okay with shifting. As an employee, you get to ask yourself that. You don't have to expect your manager or supervisor or even your coworkers or colleagues to do that for you. And when you work from within, your outward will change. It will shift. There is a difference between shift that stretches you and shift that stresses you. Shifting or chaos can stretch you, can grow you. You have to decide which one it's going to be, especially in the workforce. Stress from growth feels temporary. It challenges you. It pushes you. It may feel uncomfortable, but there's an expansion there that's right on the other side. As an employee or as a newly mom and pop business owner, can feel like you're stepping into a black hole. But you can feel yourself learning and adapting. You can feel yourself strengthening. That's what all of these different labels of what our body is feeling is allowing us to become a new version of ourselves every day, a new version of ourselves as that employee or that CEO or that mom and pop business owner or that single mother or that single father or that manager or supervisor. You get to ask yourself, well, I took this supervisor role because it was more money, but did I really want it? Did I really want to be managing people? Right? I know it could feel chronic and it could feel like it lingers. And you can feel like this isn't building my resilience. It's draining me. Ask an embodying question. I'm not telling you to stay in your job right now. I'm saying ask yourself an embodying question so you know where to go next. You know what to do next. You know if you want to take that managerial upgrade, right? Promotion. Maybe you just want it for money, but you don't want to be over people. You don't want the drama. But you have to go within, because acceptance will allow you to say that out loud. It's like, I really want a promotion, but I don't really think I want to manage a whole department. Right? Okay. So I didn't know what to think. There were seasons of my life where I didn't know what to think. Like I said, I worked for 3 major companies and like 2 or 3 smaller companies. Right? But I stayed a long time in each company because they valued my work. They respected the quality of work. They trusted my follow through. On paper, I looked great. And with my supervisors, most all of them except one, I was great. Right? They valued my work. They respected the quality. On paper, everything looked stable, but internally, I felt stressed in their chaotic environment. Consistent urgency, last minute changes, like I said, crisis mode always was the culture. And I didn't always know what that was going to be. But I started to wake up feeling tight before I even got there. I felt tired before I even pulled into my parking spot. Oh. So the law of acceptance invites me to pause inside this moment instead of reacting, right? And what I mean inside of this moment instead of reacting is my body is really kind of telling me that I need to stop in the middle of what I'm talking about and give it rest. So part 2 is going to be a part 2A, because I do want to talk about, well, maybe not a part 2A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some of the symptoms I had as an employee: exhaustion, irritation, disengagement, um, discomfort in having conversations, not wanting to be part of the group, thinking that, actually going, you know what, I've got to go take my lunch, and I can't sit in the lunchroom. I got to have some quiet. Feeling misaligned. But learning to allow myself to accept all of the negative, or all of the lower polarity feelings, then I got to allow myself to recognize that there was a possibility for me to transform it, right? Learning how to speak up for myself, learning how um, to not divert chaos, but ask an embodying question. Ask a question of the person who was presenting the chaos, and put it in their ball court, right? Acceptance is not weakness. Accepting yourself and going within yourself is not weakness. Don't let your egoic subconscious tell you that. That's the only way you're going to find clarity, is to ask yourself the important questions from the inside out. Ask yourself, I had to adjust my boundaries because I got stuck in my boundaries trying to keep people out. That's why I felt like I was in a box. I had to slow down long enough to ask myself the clear questions and not make them my problem, not make my colleagues my problem, not make my manager or supervisor or CEO the problem. I had to go inward and go, okay, what is this situation trying to show me? What is this conversation trying to show me? It wasn't about cutting and running. For me, it might be about that for you to move to the next place, the next place of employment. It might be about that being that it is the right time to go from being an employee to an entrepreneur. But know that within yourself, because I went through the opening up all these things for my job, and I knew nothing, not job, but my business, and I still have my business, and it's going through a metamorphosis now too, because I didn't want to do accounts receivable, collections, and credit as a business. I did it 40 years. I had to go internally and go, well, what do I want this business to be? And to tell you the truth, I would like it to be something like this, where I can teach people about the laws of the universe and how to apply them in every area of their life, including their work area. Some people decided that they were going to own businesses, and now they're in a load of debt because they didn't know about certain other things that they needed to know. I want to help people that way, but I think I want to help people do this or learn this as my business. Soulutions Workshops with Sandra. Or who knows? It could be Marshall Soulutions Workshop. I don't know yet. But the divine is working with me on that, because I had to go inward with me. Right? Do I want employees? I already know my answer to that. No. No, I don't. I learned that. So no, I don't want a business that can grow and can grow and become a conglomerate and any of that. I already know that for me. Do you know that for you? There are so many questions that you need to ask yourself when you're starting a business, because your business is you, your soul, your body, your mind. It takes on your essence. So in closing, maybe the real 411 comes back to just being aware of how you feel, aware of what feels aligned for you, aware of what feels strained, aware of what feels forced, aware of you recognizing what is already present or what is missing. So in our next episode, we're going to explore that space between knowing and embodying. So until next time, emerge in your flow. Emerge in your flow. Find your flow and emerge in it. Emerge in it with as many questions as you need to ask yourself, so that you can plot a course to your next now moment. Wholeness and balanced love to you and yours. One love. Peace.